The volume tracker is a module offered within the TeamBuildr AMS subscription package. Within the volume tracker, you'll be able to review the prescribed intensities per exercise that you've assigned to your athletes' workouts. You'll be able to see what's been assigned versus what's been completed on those exercises, and being able to find any differences in what the athlete chose to do, whether they progressed themselves or regressed themselves within that workout, to get a better understanding of their progression throughout the exercises you prescribed. Similar to the rest of our AMS modules, you will be able to create a dashboard and save that dashboard as a template to be able to refer back to in a much quicker fashion. To do so, for the first time, you'll click the plus button to create a new dashboard and template that out. You'll be able to identify and select the date range to start. You'll have up to 8 weeks maximum, and you can select up to 10 exercises to add to this dashboard. You can choose to select just certain exercises. You can select all the exercises you currently have running in that 8-week program. And you, like I said, you can segment that out to be able to identify the differences between what has been done in your compound lifts versus what's been done in, say, your Olympic lifts or your accessories. We'll choose some time here to be able to pull exercises to review. Like I said, you have 8 weeks, and then anything between today will populate, and then back in time as far as you'd like, up to that 8-week maximum. You can search for exercises here. You can also just simply go down and scroll to find exercises that are ordered in alphabetical order. I'll select the top 3 here just to choose. You can deselect them by pressing X, or you can deselect them by toggling that checkbox as well. Once you've selected the exercises you'd like to review, you can hit Load Dashboard. This will prompt you to select a group to start. I'm going to choose football in this case. The initial graph that populates will show you the group averages. You can select that up top as well, and you can toggle between athletes to view differences in what they've been completed. In this first view, the overview, you will see, in this case, the average of the number of reps per intensity bucket. So this will take what has been completed that day, reference against that athlete's maximum, and give a percent intensity assigned to that. In this case, you can filter down even further. So right now, you're allowed to see up to 10 columns at a time. If you go to 5%, you'll still have that 10 column maximum or 10 bar maximum. But what it will do is will decrease the amount of range that you're allowed. This will split the bars into a 5% increment. So every bar here is 5% from the bottom to the top threshold. So we have 50 to 55, 55 to 60. If I toggle back to 10%, you'll see those thresholds have now increased from 50 to 60. So that full 10%, and you can now increase the range to view a larger chunk of information. Let's stay a little bit more granular, stick with the 5%. What I will do is I will file this down even further to get a better view of where information lies. So if I know this program was set to be assigned between 70 and 80% for the barbell back squat, I can file that down further. If I want to add exercises to review, I can do so down here, and those will populate below as well. So you can see different exercises on top of each other to get a better understanding of what's being done per your compounds, per your Olympics, per your accessories. If I want to reduce the view, I can certainly do that here. One exercise should be toggled on at each time to get the full view to populate. This will order based on the views you've selected first. So barbell back squat in this case will populate first. If I do bench press and then back squat, bench press will stay at the top. Back squat will be the second in order. So depending on how you click on these, will populate the graphic area. What you're seeing here again is right now the average, since we have select an athlete view group selected. What you're seeing is the average number of reps between the two athletes in this group. So in this case, on average, 15 reps were completed in the 80 to 85% range with an average tonnage of 35,000 pounds. Or sorry, 3,500 pounds. On this progression, or the next day, you'll see that they, on average, decreased half the reps, but what they did do is they increased the intensity as well. So whether this is assigned or unassigned, you'll be able to see any discrepancies. If this program specifically prescribed 15 reps at 80%, and you notice the discrepancy here, well, it's likely the case that someone within the group either bumped themselves up or there was a different prescription for a certain person within this group. That being said, you can select here the different athletes to be able to view any differences, and we see that Shane was the one that either bumped themselves up or had a different prescription that day on June 2nd for back squat. Scrolling down, you'll also see the other lifts as well. Now, if we were to switch over to assigned versus completed, this is where you can see what has been assigned and what actually was completed. So we see for Shane in the more opaque area, that's what's been assigned by you as the practitioner. The filled in bar is what has been completed by that athlete. So on May 2nd, you'll see that there was 2,700 pounds assigned and 2,700 pounds completed within the 80% to 85% range. And then ensuing day for barbell back squat on June 2nd, you'll see they were assigned 2,850 pounds, but they completed about 3,000 pounds, 5% higher, in a 5% range higher. So that athlete in this case would have completed something that wasn't originally intended by you as the practitioner. So that could be a flag that either a max needs to increase, their next workload may need to decrease if they weren't ready to handle that. Any sort of context keys that you can draw from this, given the athlete you are working with, this will at least point you in that direction to be able to start to examine further on who, what, and where you need to make adjustments. And then the final day, you'll see that they stayed true to the prescription and they even increased their volume over time. If we go back to view group, this will now go into an average mode. So these are all averages. On May 26th, on average, there was a completion of a little bit higher than what was assigned. Again, the average there is taking into account Shane's increase in weight. And then again, that final day, the average between the two athletes in this group. Scrolling down, we'll also show you the other exercises as well, which will fall in line in a similar fashion. Same rules apply here. You'll get a maximum of 10 bars to populate. You can do the 10 and 5% increments. You can also toggle which exercises you want here. Keeping in mind that you'll have a shorter range and allowance because there are 2 bars that populate per bucket. In this case, you'll have a range of about 50%, 50 to 100. Going outside that range will cap it. So if I go down to 40, you'll notice that this will now decrease to the next lowest threshold. And this will reset, not allowing you to select 100 anymore. You can select up to 90. Same goes for 5%. Again, an allowance of 10 bars to populate on the graph. If you click 5%, it will auto adjust into a point where the graph can populate. If I go down here, you'll see it repopulates to find the next lowest threshold, and it'll reset the graph. So keeping that in mind, making sure that you're selecting an appropriate threshold range for the information that you've selected and the settings that you have, knowing that there will be some limitations as far as how much the graph can populate at a particular time. Now we have it an assigned versus completed percentage of 80 to 100%. If I were to click back to the overview, you'll see that that also follows suit. This will stay with the same selections. Hovering over will produce a line to show you the tonnage over time for that particular range. So in this case, that yellow line is going to show you the tonnage that was completed on average for this group right now. You'll see 15 reps with 3,500 as the completed tonnage. And this will then scale across. So if you hover over the yellow bar again, you can click on that bar and you'll get a pop-up saying that you've pinned this. So you can now pin that tonnage line to view just natural progressions of volume of that tonnage given the 80 to 85% completion range. If I hover over the purple, you'll also see the purple line. Nothing was completed for the 26th or the 9th, so those will drop to 0, but there was a completion of about 1,500 pounds between the 85 to 90% range. Same goes for the bottom graphs. You can see that as well. You have a couple options here at first before you save. You can save or share the dashboard as a view only, which will the link will expire in 30 days. Saving allows for the duplication function. So if you'd like to duplicate this for another group, you certainly can. If we hit Save Dashboard, you can add a title. You can name this Football Off-Season Review. You can add a brief description if you'd like. You can assign the groups. So if this were all groups within your TeamBuildr will have access and can be loaded onto this volume tracker dashboard that you've created. If we do select groups, we can just select individual or select multiple. So if there's just a couple groups you want access to this, you can certainly select those here. Since this is football specific, we can remove volleyball by just clicking the X. When hitting submit, that will save the changes and you'll have a pop-up that will say dashboard created. You can remove that with an X or let that timer expire. Now that you've saved this, you can duplicate it to then share or hook this up for another group specifically within your TeamBuildr account. You can also share this with an outside source who does not need a TeamBuildr account as well. They will get a view-only access link, and it will be a one-to-one carbon copy of what you have here currently. So any of the settings you have selected in your current view will be assigned to the share dashboard. There will also be a limited view in what they can toggle on and off in that share only link. So there will be less ability to customize the views and information for the individual that is viewing this from that share only link. So if we were to share dashboard, you can then review what you have set and you can set different thresholds as necessary. It will keep the title. You can change the title as if you see fit. You can select the individual date range here. So if we want to go back, you can select the 18th to June 21st. Again, you can do 5 or 10% increments. Let's say we know that the information falls between 70 and 100%. This would be for the football group, so the individual will see just the football team's information. We can then create the link. You'll want to click on this gray box, copy the URL to your computer, open a new tab. You can paste this to ensure that this is the right information in the right view before sending it off in an email to somebody else. Again, they will not be able to toggle the group if only one group is selected. They can toggle different athletes. They can go to the group view. They will not be able to select the date range. They can select different lifts, but they will not be able to change the percentage buckets or the increments at all. So if you'd like for them to see the 5%, make sure you select that before sending this off. You'll see the information populated below. You can also go to assign versus completed, and those same buckets or exercises will populate here. They again can toggle that on and off in this view as well. Those will be the only areas that viewer can edit. So if there's ever any question as to what information should be there, just double check before you send this off, and you can certainly generate a new share link by going back and making edits here and then creating a new link, and it will have the information there set for them. You can print this out, which will condense the graphic view. It will download as a PDF, so if you have multiple lines to the right, that will condense it into one view form. You alternatively can scroll to the right if there is multiple lines, multiple areas of this graph populated as well. So scrolling to the right on your trackpad or pressing the right arrow key will reveal more bars to the right in chronological order if there are any populated within the date range you've selected. These are all the current capabilities of the volume tracker. Any support that's necessary, please reach out to support@TeamBuildr.com.